corner table at the grand wedding, the Grand Riverside Hotel, sparkled like a scene from a fairy tale. Thousands of tiny lights draped across the ceiling, cascading down like frozen waterfalls. White roses perfumed the air, their petals scattered artfully across marble floors. The bride's gown glittered with crystals as she glided through the reception hall. Her laughter, mixing with the gentle melody of a string quartet. Juliet Morgan smoothed down her simple coral dress and tried not to feel out of place. She had borrowed the dress from her neighbor, Mrs. Patterson, who insisted it looked lovely despite being 3 seasons old. Juliet's brown curls were pinned up hastily that morning, a few rebellious strands already escaping. She clutched her small purse and glanced around the magnificent ballroom, searching for her assigned table. Beside her, 7-year-old Oliver tugged at his clip-on tie, his green eyes wide with wonder. The boy had never seen anything so grand. At home, their apartment consisted of 2 small bedrooms above the bakery where Juliet worked double shifts. This world of champagne fountains and ice sculptures felt like stepping into one of the storybooks she read to Oliver each night. "Mommy, are we really allowed to be here?" Oliver whispered, clutching her hand tighter. Juliet smiled and squeezed back. "Of course, sweetheart. Cousin Rebecca invited us, remember? Even if we haven't seen her since I was in college." They found their assigned seats at table 17, tucked in the far corner near the kitchen doors. The table was half empty. 2 elderly aunts who barely acknowledged them occupied the other seats, already deep in gossip about family members Juliet had never met. The centerpiece was smaller here, the tablecloth slightly wrinkled. It was clear where the bride's priorities lay. Juliet had grown used to being overlooked. 7 years ago, when her boyfriend Travis discovered she was pregnant, he had disappeared faster than morning fog. Her parents had called her foolish, said she was throwing away her college degree. Friends had drifted away when she could no longer afford girls' nights out. She had learned to hold her head high anyway, to find joy in Oliver's laughter, to measure wealth in hugs rather than dollars. As the reception began, Juliet watched the glittering crowd. Women in designer gowns twirled across the dance floor. Men in expensive suits clinked glasses, discussing stock portfolios and vacation homes. Everyone seemed to belong to this world except her. The man in the shadows, then her eyes landed on him at the VIP table closest to the bride and groom. A man sat completely still. His wheelchair was positioned carefully, almost apologetically, as if he was trying to take up less space. He wore a perfectly tailored charcoal suit, his dark hair styled with precision. Even from across the room, Juliet could see the sharp line of his jaw and the broad shoulders that spoke of someone who had once been athletic. But it was his eyes that caught her attention, deep brown eyes that held a universe of sadness. Benjamin Hartwell was a name that appeared regularly in business magazines. At 32, he had built Hartwell Technologies from a college dorm room project into a company worth billions. His facial recognition software had revolutionized security systems worldwide. Forbes had named him one of the most influential entrepreneurs under 40. 2 years ago, everything had changed. A drunk driver had run a red light, slamming into Ben's car at 70 miles per hour. The accident had shattered his spine, stealing the use of his legs, and it seemed his place in the world he once dominated. His fiancée Amanda had visited him once in the hospital. She had cried, said she was sorry that she could not imagine a life taking care of someone who needed so much help. The engagement ring he had spent months designing stayed in its velvet box, never placed on her finger. Business partners had initially sent flowers and cards, but those had dried up when it became clear his recovery would take years, not months. Now Ben attended events out of obligation, a ghost at the feast. He donated generously to charities, wrote checks that made board members smile, but no one truly saw him anymore. They saw the chair. They saw limitation. They saw someone to pity from a safe distance. Tonight, watching couples swirl across the dance floor, Ben felt the familiar ache of isolation. The champagne in his glass had gone flat. He had already planned his exit, calculating how long he needed to stay before leaving would not seem rude. When innocence breaks through, Mommy, look at that awesome chair. Oliver's voice carried across the ballroom, cutting through polite conversation. Juliet's face flushed crimson as dozens of heads turned toward their corner table. She tried to hush her son, but Oliver had already wriggled free from his seat. Before Juliet could stop him, the boy was marching straight across the polished floor toward Benjamin Hartwell's table. Several guests gasped. The string quartet faltered for a moment. "You get back here right now," Juliet hissed. But it was too late. Ben looked up, startled, as a small boy with unruly blonde hair planted himself directly in front of the wheelchair. Oliver's eyes were bright with genuine fascination, no trace of pity in his young face. "Sir, that's the coolest chair I've ever seen. Does it go fast? Can you do tricks? I bet you could win races with that." For the first time in months, genuine surprise flickered across Ben's features. Not discomfort or embarrassment, but actual interest. This child was not staring at him with sad eyes, or quickly looking away. Oliver was studying the wheelchair the way other kids examined race cars or superhero action figures. A laugh bubbled up from somewhere deep in Ben's chest. "Rusty from disuse, but real. Well, it does have some pretty good speed when I need it. No tricks yet, though I have thought about adding some lights underneath, like a spaceship." Oliver's eyes went impossibly wider, exactly like a spaceship. Juliet finally reached them, breathless and mortified. "I am so sorry. Oliver, apologize right now for bothering this gentleman." But Ben raised a hand, and when he looked at Juliet, something shifted in the air between them. She had expected annoyance, maybe anger. Instead, she found warmth in those brown eyes, a spark of life that had been missing moments before. "He's not bothering me at all. In fact, he's the first person tonight who's talked to me like I'm actually here." Ben extended his hand. "Benjamin Hartwell. My friends call me Ben." Juliet hesitated only a second before taking his hand. His grip was firm, confident. "Juliet Morgan. And this curious troublemaker is my son Oliver." "I'm not a troublemaker," Oliver protested. "I'm an explorer." Ben grinned. "An explorer? Well then, would you like to explore what all these buttons on my chair do?" As Oliver bounced excitedly, Ben showed him the controls, explaining each function with the patience of someone who rarely had the chance to share. Juliet watched, her heart doing something strange in her chest. This man, this billionaire who could have dismissed them with a word, was giving her son his full attention. The band struck up a waltz. Around them, couples moved toward the dance floor, the bride and groom leading the way in a graceful spin. Ben's smile faded slightly as he watched. The loneliness creeping back into his expression, Juliet made a decision that surprised even herself. The dance that changed everything. "Would you like to dance?" The words left her mouth before her brain could approve them. Ben's head snapped toward her, his eyes wide with shock. Around them, conversation stopped. Even the elderly aunts at table 17 leaned forward, watching with open curiosity. "Excuse me?" Ben's voice was careful, as if he had misheard. Juliet felt her cheeks burn, but she refused to back down. Life had taught her that the biggest regrets came from moments of cowardice, not boldness. "I asked if you would like to dance." "With me, I'm in a wheelchair," Ben said slowly. As if explaining something obvious, I noticed. Juliet smiled. That same bright smile that had carried her through 7 years of single parenthood. Through double shifts and overdue rent notices, but I don't remember dancing requiring any particular equipment. Just to people and music. Ben stared at her, searching her face for mockery or pity. He found neither. Only genuine invitation, perhaps even a hint of mischief. When was the last time someone had looked at him that way? When was the last time someone had seen past the chair to the man still sitting in it? "People will stare," he warned, his voice dropping lower. "Let them," Juliet replied. She held out her hand, steady and sure. "I've been stared at plenty. Single mom at the cheap table? Trust me, I know all about unwanted attention. But I also know that the best moments in life happen when you stop caring what other people think." Oliver tugged on Ben's sleeve. "Say yes, Mr. Ben, my mommy's a really good dancer. She dances with me all the time in our kitchen." Something inside Ben's chest, something that had been frozen solid for 2 years, began to thaw. Here was a woman who had nothing to gain from him, no business deal to pitch, no charity angle to work, Just a simple invitation to share a dance at a wedding where they were both outsiders? He placed his hand in hers. All right, Juliet Morgan. Let's show them how it's done. The ballroom collectively held its breath as Juliet moved behind Ben's wheelchair, her hands resting lightly on the handles. Ben could feel the warmth of her presence, and for the first time since the accident, he did not feel self-conscious about needing assistance. This did not feel like pity. It felt like partnership. They moved on to the dance floor together. The crowd parted, whispers following in their wake. Some faces showed confusion, others disapproval. But a few, just a few, showed something else, understanding, perhaps even admiration. Juliet began to move with the music, guiding the wheelchair in smooth circles and gentle spins. She moved with surprising grace, turning what could have been awkward into something almost magical. Oliver ran alongside them, giggling and cheering. Adding his own wild spins to their orbit, Ben felt the rhythm flow through him. His upper body swayed with the music, his arms moving in time. And when he looked up at Juliet, when their eyes met, he saw something that made his breath catch. She was not looking down at him with sympathy. She was looking at him the way a woman looks at a man she finds interesting. The way someone looks at a partner, an equal. The song swelled, violins soaring. Juliet spun the chair faster, her coral dress swirling around her legs. Oliver leaped and twirled, his laughter infectious. And then, impossibly, people began to clap. Not in mockery, but in genuine delight. One couple joined them on the floor, then another. Soon the entire ballroom was dancing again, but this time, Ben and Juliet remained at the center. When the music finally ended, the room erupted in applause. Juliet bent down, slightly out of breath, her eyes sparkling. That was not so terrible. Ben realized he was smiling, really smiling, for the first time in 2 years. That was perfect. Oliver crashed into them both, wrapping his small arms around Ben's shoulders. Best dance ever. Can we do it again? As Juliet laughed and tried to calm her excited son, Ben felt something shift deep inside him. The walls he had built around his heart, the resignation that his life was effectively over. All of it began to crack. Maybe, just maybe, his story was not finished after all. The morning after magic sunlight streamed through the windows of Juliet's small apartment above Morgan's Bakery on Westfield Avenue. The smell of fresh bread drifted up from below, where her boss, Mrs. Henderson, was already preparing the morning batch. Juliet stretched, still wearing her coral dress from the night before, her feet aching from dancing in borrowed heels. Oliver was sprawled across his bed in the next room, still fast asleep, one arm dangling off the side. Last night, he had talked non-stop about the wedding, about the cool wheelchair, about Mr. Ben, who had promised to show him more buttons next time. Next time. Juliet had smiled and tucked him in, not wanting to explain that people like Benjamin Hartwell did not have next times with people like them. She changed into her work uniform. Jeans and a simple white shirt, pulling her hair into a practical ponytail. The magic of last night felt distant now, like a dream that fades in morning light. She was already planning her day, drop Oliver at school, work the breakfast shift, pick up groceries with whatever was left from her paycheck, return home to help Oliver with homework. Then her phone buzzed. Juliet almost dropped it when she saw the message from an unknown number. Good morning, Juliet. This is Ben Hartwell. I hope this is not too forward, but I wanted to thank you properly for last night. Would you and Oliver join me for lunch today? I promise no wheelchairs will be harmed in the making of this meal. Her heart did a strange flip. She read the message 3 times, checking for signs it might be a joke or a mistake. But there it was, simple and genuine. Before she could overthink it, her thumbs were already typing. We would love to. Oliver has not stopped talking about you. Fair warning, he will ask a million questions. Response came immediately. Perfect. I have a million answers. I will send a car at noon. Juliet sat down hard on her bed, her mind spinning. A billionaire had just asked her to lunch. Not out of pity, not as charity, but because he wanted to see them again. She pressed a hand to her chest, feeling her heart race beneath her palm. Oliver, she called out, unable to keep the smile from her voice. Wake up, sweetheart. We have plans today. Lunch by the river. The black town car that arrived at noon was nicer than anything Juliet had ever ridden in. The driver, a kind older man named Robert, helped Oliver into the back seat with practiced ease, treating them like valued guests rather than charity cases. Oliver pressed his nose against the window, watching the city roll by. Pointing out every interesting sight, they arrived at Riverside Bistro, a charming Italian restaurant built on a dock extending over the water. String lights crisscrossed overhead, even in daylight, and the scent of garlic and fresh basil filled the air. Ben was already seated at a corner table with a perfect view of the river, his wheelchair positioned comfortably. When he saw them approach, his entire face lit up. Juliet realized with a start that he was actually nervous, his hands fidgeting slightly with the menu. You came, Ben said, and there was genuine relief in his voice. Of course we came, Juliet replied, sliding into the seat across from him. You promised lunch, and Oliver takes food promises very seriously. Oliver climbed into his chair, immediately leaning forward with wide eyes. Mr. Ben, do you have other cool stuff besides the wheelchair? Like a robot or a supercomputer? Ben laughed, the sound rich and warm. I have a few interesting gadgets at my office. Maybe I could show you sometime, if your mom says it is okay. Can I, Mom? Please, please, please. Juliet met Ben's eyes across the table, seeing the hopeful question there. He was not just being polite. He genuinely wanted to spend more time with them. We will see, she said softly, which in mom language meant probably yes. The lunch was magical in its simplicity. They ordered pasta and pizza, sharing bites from each other's plates. Oliver demonstrated his proper spaghetti twirling technique, which mostly involved getting sauce on his nose. Ben told stories about building his first computer in his college dorm, how he had accidentally started a small fire that set off the sprinkler system. The resident advisor was not happy, Ben admitted, grinning, but that computer eventually became the foundation for Hartwell Technologies. Juliet found herself relaxing in a way she had not in years. Ben did not talk down to Oliver, and he did not treat her like she needed rescuing. He asked about her life with genuine interest, listening intently as she described her work at the bakery, her dreams of maybe opening her own shop someday. What would you call it? Ben asked. Morgan's Sweet Beginnings, Juliet said immediately, then blushed. I know it sounds silly. It is just a dream. Dreams are never silly, Ben replied, his voice serious. They are the blueprints for the future. Everything I built started as a dream people told me was impossible. The afternoon stretched on, sunlight dancing on the water. Other diners came and went, but their little table felt like its own world. Oliver eventually fell asleep in his chair, exhausted from excitement, his head resting on his folded arms. He really likes you, Juliet said quietly, brushing her son's hair back gently. The feeling is mutual, Ben replied. Then, more hesitantly, and what about you, Juliet? Do you like me? The question hung between them, vulnerable and honest. Juliet looked at this man, this brilliant, this wounded man who could have anyone but was choosing to spend his afternoon with a bakery worker and her 7-year-old son. She thought about how easy he was to talk to, how his laugh made her stomach flutter, how he treated Oliver like he mattered. Yes, she said simply, I really do. Ben's smile could have powered the entire city. He reached across the table, his hand open in invitation. Juliet placed her hand in his, feeling the calluses on his palms from years of pushing his wheelchair, the strength in his fingers. Would you have dinner with me tomorrow night? Ben asked. Just the two of us? I know a place with terrible wine, but the best view in the city. I would like that very much, Juliet replied, her heart soaring when the world intrudes the next morning. Everything changed. Juliet was mixing dough at the bakery when Mrs. Henderson called her to the back office, her usually cheerful face troubled. Honey, you need to see this. On the computer screen was a tabloid website, and there plastered across the top was a photo from the wedding. Ben and Juliet on the dance floor, her hands on his wheelchair, both of them laughing. The headline screamed, Billionaire's new love interest, gold digger or good Samaritan. Juliet's blood ran cold as she read the article. It dissected everything. Her simple dress, her financial situation, her status as a single mother. It speculated about her motives, questioned whether she was taking advantage of a vulnerable man, suggested she was after his fortune. They tracked down people from the wedding, Mrs. Henderson said quietly. He got quotes from guests saying it looked suspicious, that you came out of nowhere. Juliet's hands were shaking. This was what she had feared, what she should have expected. People like her did not date people like Ben without the world assuming the worst. She thought about Oliver, about protecting him from this ugliness. Her phone rang. Ben's name flashed on the screen. Juliet, I am so sorry, he said immediately. I should have warned you. The press, they are vultures. This is exactly why I stopped going to public events. Maybe we should stop seeing each other, Juliet heard herself say, each word like swallowing glass. Before this gets worse. Before Oliver gets hurt, no. Ben's voice was firm. Do not let them win. Do not let them take this away from us, before it even has a chance to begin. Ben, they are calling me a gold digger. They are saying, I am using you. How is this supposed to work? By not caring what they say. By knowing the truth ourselves. Unless you are having doubts? Unless you think maybe they are right that we are too different. That is not fair, Juliet whispered. But you are right. I am sorry. I am just terrified of losing something I only just found. Juliet closed her eyes, tears threatening. She thought about Oliver's excitement, about Ben's genuine kindness, about how alive she had felt for the first time in 7 years. Then she thought about the article, about more headlines, about photographers following her son to school. I need time to think, she said finally. Please, Ben, just give me some time. Shh. She hung up before he could respond. Before she could hear the hurt in his voice and change her mind, the confrontation 3 days passed. 3 days of Juliet throwing herself into work, of avoiding Ben's calls, of watching Oliver ask repeatedly when they would see Mr. Ben again. 3 days of telling herself she was doing the right thing, protecting her son. Being realistic, 3 days of feeling like she had made the biggest mistake of her life. On the 4th day, as she was closing up the bakery, a familiar black town car pulled up outside. But this time, Ben himself was in the driver's seat, hand controls visible on the steering wheel. He rolled down the window. Get in, please. Ben, I told you I needed space. I gave you 3 days. That is 72 hours of space, which is approximately 71 hours more than I could stand. His eyes were redrimmed, exhausted. Just hear me out. 5 minutes. If you still want me to leave after that, I will go and I will not bother you again. Against her better judgment, Juliet climbed into the passenger seat. Ben drove in silence to the Riverside Park where they had taken Oliver on their second meeting. He parked overlooking the water, the sun setting in brilliant oranges and pinks. I have been alone for 2 years, Ben said finally, staring straight ahead. After the accident, everyone disappeared. My fiancé, my friends, my colleagues, they all had reasons, good reasons probably, but the result was the same. I was alone. Ben, I am not them. I am not leaving because things got hard. Then why are you leaving? He turned to face her now, his eyes intense. Because of what strangers wrote in a tabloid. Because you are afraid of what people might think. I am afraid for Oliver, Juliet shot back. I am afraid of photographers following him to school. I am afraid of other kids teasing him because his mom is dating some billionaire they read about online. I am his mother. Protecting him is my job. You think keeping him away from someone who cares about him is protection? Ben's voice cracked. Do you know what Oliver told me at lunch? He said I was the coolest grown-up he ever met besides his mom. He said he wished his real dad was like me. Tears spilled down Juliet's cheeks. That is exactly why this is so hard. He already cares about you. What happens when this does not work out? When you realize that a woman with nothing and a 7-year-old kid is more trouble than it is worth? Is that what you really think? Ben's voice was quiet now, dangerous. That you are trouble? That Oliver is trouble? I think we are from different worlds, Ben. You live in a penthouse. I live above a bakery. You have board meetings and business empires. I have double shifts and grocery store coupons. Maybe those tabloids are right. Maybe I am in over my head. Stop. Ben's hand shot out, grasping hers. Stop letting fear tell you who you are. Stop letting other people's opinions define what we could be. It is not that simple. Yes, it is. He pulled her hand to his chest, over his heart. Feel that. It beats faster when you are near. It has not done that in 2 years. You make me feel alive, Juliet. You and Oliver both. And if you think I am going to let some garbage tabloid destroy that, you do not know me very well.
Juliet
Was sobbing now, her whole body shaking. I am so scared, Ben. Scared of being hurt again. Scared of hurting Oliver. Scared that this is too good to be true, and it will all come crashing down. Ben reached out, cupping her face in his hands, his thumbs wiping away her tears. I am scared too. Terrified, actually. But I would rather be terrified with you than safe and alone without you. The media will get worse. The scrutiny, the judgment, all of it.
Let them come.
We will face it together. His forehead rested against hers. I am not asking you to marry me tomorrow, Juliet. I am just asking you not to give up on us before we even begin. Give us a real chance, please. In that moment, with the sunset painting the sky and Ben's hands warm against her face, Juliet made her choice. She had spent 7 years protecting herself, building walls, playing it safe. Maybe it was time to be brave again. Okay, she whispered. Okay, we will try, but we do this right. Slow, careful, with Oliver at the center of every decision. Agreed. Ben's smile was radiant with relief. Though I should warn you, I am an impatient man. Slow might kill me. Juliet laughed through her tears. You will survive. He kissed her then, soft and sweet, a promise sealed with trembling lips. When they pulled apart, both were crying and smiling at the same time. So what now? Juliet asked. Ben grinned, that mischievous spark back in his eyes. Now we go pick up Oliver from Mrs. Patterson's, and we tell him that Mr. Ben is sticking around. And then, if you are brave enough, we order pizza and watch whatever cartoon he is obsessed with this week. I can do that, Juliet said. Her heart light for the first time in days, as they drove back toward the city. Hands clasped together over the center console, both knew the road ahead would not be easy. There would be more articles, more judgment, more challenges. But they would face them together, and somehow, that made all the difference. The business rescues 6 weeks after their confrontation. Juliet found herself in the back of a limousine, wearing a dress that cost more than 3 months of her rent. Ben had insisted on buying it for her, and after a brief argument, she had accepted. Tonight was too important to his company for her pride to get in the way. Beside her, Ben adjusted his tie for the 3rd time, his jaw tight with tension. If this meeting goes badly, the board will have the ammunition they need to force me out. Hartwell Technologies was in crisis. A major deal with Pacific Rim investors had fallen through when the lead negotiator, Kenji Tanaka, had expressed concerns about the company's leadership stability. The unspoken issue was clear. Could a man in a wheelchair truly lead a global tech company? The question made Juliet's blood boil, but she kept her voice calm. Tell me about Mr. Tanaka. What matters to him besides business? Ben thought for a moment. He mentioned his granddaughter several times during our video calls. She is about Oliver's age, recovering from leukemia. He showed me her picture once. Juliet squeezed his hand. Then we will connect through that. Parents and grandparents speak the same language, no matter what country they are from. The restaurant was exclusive. The kind of place where reservations were made months in advance. Mr. Tanaka was already seated when they arrived, his assistant beside him. He was in his 60s, impeccably dressed, his face neutral but assessing. Ben made the introduction smoothly. Mr. Tanaka, this is Juliet Morgan. Juliet Kenji Tanaka, CEO of Pacific Rim Investors. Mr. Tanaka stood and bowed slightly. Juliet returned the gesture, grateful for the research she had done on Japanese business etiquette. It is an honor to meet you, Mr. Tanaka. As they settled into dinner, the conversation remained stiff and formal. Ben presented data, projections, security protocols. Mr. Tanaka listened but remained unreadable. Juliet noticed him glancing repeatedly at Ben's wheelchair, doubt flickering in his eyes. Then the food arrived, and with it, an opportunity. The waiter accidentally knocked over a water glass, sending liquid cascading toward Mr. Tanaka's expensive suit. Juliet reacted instantly, grabbing her napkin and helping to blot the water before it could do damage. "I am so sorry," the waiter stammered, horrified. "No harm done," Juliet said warmly, catching the young man's eye. "These things happen. I once spilled an entire wedding cake on myself in front of 50 people. Water is nothing." The tension broke. Mr. Tanaka actually smiled, something human showing through his business facade. "You were very kind to the young man. Many would have been angry." "Life is too short for anger over accidents," Juliet replied. "Besides, I learned from my son that the best way to handle spills is to laugh and grab a towel." "You have a son?" Juliet pulled out her phone, showing a recent photo of Oliver. "Oliver. He is 7, full of energy and questions. He keeps me on my toes." Mr. Tanaka's expression softened completely. He reached for his own phone, showing a picture of a small girl with a bright smile and no hair. "My granddaughter Yuki. She just finished her last round of chemotherapy." "She is beautiful," Juliet said genuinely. "That smile tells me she is a fighter." For the next hour, the conversation shifted. Mr. Tanaka and Juliet traded stories about children, about the challenges of balancing work and family, about finding joy in small moments. Ben watched in amazement as walls that had been impenetrable crumbled under Juliet's warmth. When Mr. Tanaka finally turned back to business, his entire demeanor had changed. "Mr. Hartwell, I must admit I had concerns about this partnership. But seeing you tonight, seeing the person you have chosen to share your life with, I understand something important." Ben tensed, preparing for rejection. "Leadership is not about whether a man can walk," Mr. Tanaka continued. "It is about wisdom, integrity, and the people who stand beside him. Miss Morgan, you have shown me that Mr. Hartwell has excellent judgment in all things, not just business." He extended his hand across the table. "Pacific Rim investors would be honored to partner with Hartwell Technologies. Let us sign the papers tomorrow." The relief on Ben's face was profound. After Mr. Tanaka and his assistant left, he turned to Juliet with tears in his eyes. "You just saved my company." "No," Juliet corrected gently. "You built something worth saving. I just helped him see what was already there." Ben pulled her close, kissing her deeply, not caring who might see. "I love you, Juliet Morgan. I am completely, hopelessly in love with you." Juliet's heart soared. "I love you too, Ben. All of you, exactly as you are." The breaking point, the physical therapy room, was Ben's personal torture chamber, and he had been avoiding it. But after the success with Mr. Tanaka, he felt renewed determination to improve. He wanted to stand for Juliet, to prove he could still be the man she deserved. Dr. Patricia Owens. His therapist had designed a new exercise regimen. Today they would attempt standing with the parallel bars, something Ben had not managed in over a year. Juliet sat in the corner with Oliver, who was coloring quietly. Ben had insisted they come, wanting them to see his progress. Now he regretted that choice, as sweat poured down his face, and his arms trembled with effort. "On 3, Dr. Owens said. 1, 2, 3. Ben pushed with everything he had, his arms locked, taking his full weight. For a moment his feet bore some pressure. His legs remembered the sensation of standing. Hope flared bright in his chest. Then his right knee buckled. Ben crashed down hard, his body slamming into the padded floor. Pain exploded through his hip and shoulder. But worse than the physical pain was the emotional devastation. All that work, all that hope, and he still could not do it. "Ben," Juliet was beside him instantly, her hands gentle on his face. He pushed her away, shame and rage boiling over. "Do not look at me like that. Do not look at me with that pity in your eyes." "It is not pity," Juliet said firmly. "It is concern. There is a difference, is there?" Ben's voice was bitter, broken. 2 years, Juliet. 2 years of therapy, and I still cannot stand for more than 5 seconds. What kind of man am I? What kind of partner can I be when I cannot even walk you to dinner?" Oliver had stopped coloring, his young face troubled. Dr. Owens discreetly left the room, giving them privacy. You want to know what kind of man you are? Juliet's voice shook with emotion. You are the man who makes my son laugh. The man who saved his company through brilliance and determination. The man who treats me like I matter, like I am more than just a struggling single mother. You deserve better than this. Ben gestured at himself, at the wheelchair, at his useless legs. You deserve someone whole. Juliet's eyes flashed with anger. Do not tell me what I deserve. I have spent 7 years having other people tell me what I deserve. I deserve someone who loves me, who treats Oliver with kindness, who makes me feel alive for the first time since I was 21 years old. That is you, Ben. Legs or no legs, wheelchair or not, that is you. But what if I never walk again? What if this is it forever? Then this is it forever, Juliet said simply. Okay, and we will figure it out together. Ben felt his anger drain away, leaving only vulnerability. I am so tired, Juliet. Tired of fighting my own body. Tired of proving myself over and over. Tired of feeling like half a man. She knelt in front of him, taking his face in her hands. You are not half of anything. You are whole exactly as you are. Your worth is not measured in steps taken or miles walked. It is measured in love given, in integrity shown, in the lives you touch. Oliver approached slowly, wrapping his small arms around Ben's neck. Mr. Ben, you are my favorite grown-up ever. Even more than Spider-Man, and that is saying a lot. Ben laughed through his tears, holding the boy close. Thank you, buddy. That means everything. As Juliet joined the embrace, the three of them tangled together on the therapy room floor. And in that moment, Ben understood. Standing was not what made him a man. Being brave enough to love and be loved, that was what mattered. Okay, he whispered. Okay, we will keep going. Together. Together, Juliet echoed, sealing it with a kiss. The public declaration 3 months. Later, the Grand Riverside Hotel hosted the annual Hartwell Foundation Gala, raising money for children's hospitals. The ballroom was packed with the city's elite, all dressed in their finest. This year, Ben had decided to make the event special in more ways than one. Juliet wore a stunning sapphire gown, her hair swept up elegantly. Oliver, in a miniature suit, held her hand tightly, overwhelmed by the grandeur. They had attended several events together now. While the media still published occasional articles, the fervor had died down. People were starting to see what Ben had known from the beginning. Juliet was genuine, and their love was real. Ben took the stage to give his annual speech. The room quieted, all eyes on him. He spoke about the Foundation's mission, about the children they had helped, about the importance of giving back. Then he paused, his eyes finding Juliet in the crowd. This year I want to talk about something personal. 2 years ago, after my accident, I thought my life was over. I thought I had nothing left to offer the world. I was wrong. He gestured for Juliet and Oliver to join him on stage.
Ow.
Heart pounded as they made their way forward, Oliver practically bouncing with excitement. This is Juliet Morgan and her son Oliver. They came into my life at a wedding where I was sitting alone feeling sorry for myself. Juliet did something remarkable. She did not see a billionaire in a wheelchair. She did not see someone to pity or someone to use. She saw a man, a human being, someone worth knowing. The audience was completely silent, captivated. Oliver taught me that cool wheelchairs are nothing to be ashamed of. Juliet taught me that love does not require 2 working legs, just one open heart. Together, they reminded me that life goes on, that happiness is still possible, that family is not defined by blood or circumstances, but by choice. Ben reached into his pocket, pulling out a small velvet box. Gasps rippled through the crowd. Juliet's hand flew to her mouth, tears already streaming down her face. Juliet Morgan, you have given me more in these past months than I thought possible. You have given me laughter, partnership, hope, and a love I never expected to find. You have given me a son in Oliver, who I already love as if he were my own blood. He opened the box, revealing a stunning diamond ring that caught the light and scattered it like stars. I know we have not known each other long. I know the world will have opinions. But I also know that when you find the person who makes you feel complete, you do not let them go. Will you marry me? Will you let me spend the rest of my life showing you how extraordinary you are? Oliver shouted, "Say yes, Mom, say yes." Before Juliet could even respond, making the entire ballroom laugh. Through her tears, Juliet nodded. Yes, yes, of course, yes. Ben slipped the ring on her finger as the crowd erupted in applause. He pulled her down for a kiss that was captured by 100 cameras, but neither of them cared. This moment was theirs, a declaration that love could conquer anything. Oliver launched himself at both of them, his small arms trying to encompass them both. "Does this mean Mr. Ben is going to be my dad?" Ben looked at the boy seriously. "Only if that is what you want, buddy. Is what I want more than anything," Oliver said solemnly. "Then it is official," Ben replied, his voice thick with emotion. "I am the luckiest man alive, the beginning of forever." 6 months later, on a perfect spring day, Juliet and Ben were married in the same ballroom where they had met. But this time, the last table was gone, replaced by seating that welcomed everyone equally. The ceremony was simple but beautiful, filled with laughter and happy tears. Oliver served as ring bearer, taking his job so seriously that he walked in slow motion down the aisle, making the guests chuckle. When the minister pronounced them husband and wife, Ben pulled Juliet into his arms and kissed her as if they were the only two people in the world. The reception was a celebration of love in all its forms. Ben and Juliet shared their first dance, moving together with the same grace they had shown on their very first night. When Oliver cut in, demanding his turn, Ben lifted the boy onto his lap, and they spun together, all three of them laughing. Later, as the party continued around them, Ben and Juliet slipped away to the garden where they had first shared their stories. String lights glowed overhead, stars emerging in the darkening sky. "Mrs. Hartwell," Ben said, testing out her new name. "How does it feel?" "Like coming home," Juliet replied, resting her head on his shoulder. "Like everything I went through, all the hard years, they were leading me here to you." "I used to think my accident was the end of my story," Ben admitted, "but it was really the beginning of something better than I ever imagined." "We still have challenges ahead," Juliet reminded him gently. "The world will not suddenly become easy." "No," Ben agreed, "but we will face it together. You, me, and Oliver. Our family." The word family hung in the air, precious and perfect. From inside the ballroom, they could hear music and laughter, the sounds of celebration. Oliver's voice rose above the rest, probably telling anyone who would listen about his new dad.